Hello, everyone. Let's have more news about the Lakers, but first, don't forget to subscribe to the channel and leave a like. Los Angeles Lakers rookie Dalton Knecht has added fuel to the most unpredictable storyline of the offseason, the future of LeBron James. Speaking to TMZ at LAX, Knecht revealed that the four-time NBA champion told him directly he could see himself playing for another 5 to 10 years. And to make it even more fascinating, Knecht said he can play another 5-10 years, so me and Braun could run it for another 5-10 years. Why not? Next comments come on the heels of a cryptic commercial LeBron dropped on social media earlier this week, which reignited speculation about a possible retirement. The commercial had fans panicking. ESPN's Shams Charania even hinted earlier this month that year 23 could be LeBron's swan song, but Knecht's bombshell comment might flip the narrative once again. If James really is considering 5 more years or even 10, it would extend an already unprecedented career deep into his 40s. It sounds insane until you remember who we're talking about. LeBron is coming off a 2024-25 season where he averaged 24.4 points, 7.8 rebounds, and 8.2 assists while shooting over 51% from the field. He made another All-NBA team, led the Lakers to the postseason, and showed no signs of physical decline despite being the oldest active player in the league. And with Luka Doncic now on the roster, the Lakers are still positioned to compete for a title. But even beyond the stats and accolades, LeBron has a deeply personal reason to stay in the league, and everyone knows it. He's already made history by playing with his son, Bronny James. But with Bryce James draft eligible in 2026, the idea of playing with both sons is clearly on LeBron's mind. If his body holds up, that storyline alone could keep him going for another 2 seasons at minimum. Now let's go to another video. Don't forget to leave a like.
But yeah, this is a lot. I've seen some people joking about, hey, this is more than the Lakers gave up to get Luka. In terms of draft capital, it is. I think it depends on obviously how you value Anthony Davis. But Des Bane for KCP, Cole Anthony, 4 unprotected first round picks. And one of those picks is Phoenix's pick next year. Who knows what's going to happen to Phoenix? They're about to trade Kevin Durant any minute now. They're going to be trading Kevin Durant. So who knows what Phoenix is going to look like? That could very well be, especially in a loaded Western Conference, another lottery pick next season. So that pick in particular could be valuable. Then the Magic 2028 and 2030 picks unprotected. Now, Bane is a young-ish player. Franz Wagner is young. Paulo Banchero is young. The Orlando Magic would project to still be pretty good in 2028, 2030, but you never know. You never know where a team's going to be at that point. Plus the 16th pick in this year's NBA draft and a pick swap in 2029. So if the Grizzlies are better than the Magic in 2029, which again, that's far enough out to where who knows if the Grizzlies are better than the Magic, that pick swap could come into play. So again, I think this is a haul that the Memphis Grizzlies are getting. I know they didn't want to move on from Desmond Bane, but with this kind of a price tag, man, I don't think Memphis had much of a choice but to do this deal. This is an incredible package of draft capital in exchange for Desmond Bane, while Orlando gets the guy that may be the best fit for them overall that was realistically available. I mean, they get somebody that can shoot the three, high percentage, high volume, score the basketball, be a secondary creator, play in the backcourt with Jalen Suggs. It makes a lot of sense for Orlando from that perspective, but this is a lot. So for a Lakers team that has one future first-round pick that they can trade right now in 2031, that's where this could end up being a negative for LA. You look at the Lakers roster, and yes, you've got some tradable pieces, you've got some expiring salaries, and it's worth noting that Kentavious Caldwell-Pope on the contract that he's on, probably not a positive value. In fact, you can look at it as though one of the first-round picks in the deal going from Orlando to Memphis was probably to account for getting KCP off the roster. I'm sure the Memphis Grizzlies at the price tag for Kentavious Caldwell-Pope probably didn't really want him at that number. Now, that said, I wouldn't put it past Kentavious Caldwell-Pope for bouncing back this coming season and then making the Grizzlies look real good, because I do think they probably got an extra first in this deal because they took Kentavious Caldwell-Pope's contract on in the trade. But for a Lakers team that right now you've got a negative value contract in Jared Vanderbilt, if the cost was 1 first to get off of KCP, and Jared Vanderbilt has more years on his deal than Kentavious Caldwell-Pope, who has a player option for next year, and then that's it. But roughly the same total amount of money when we look at just next year and the year after. Obviously, KCP makes more than Jared Vanderbilt this year, but Vando over the next 2 seasons makes the same roughly as what KCP is going to make this next coming season. So would it cost the Lakers a first round pick then to get Jared Vanderbilt off their roster? That could be problematic. Obviously, that's not going to happen. The Lakers aren't going to give up the only first that they've got as the compensation for a team taking Jared Vanderbilt. So does this trade, first and foremost, make it more likely if the going rate to get 20 plus million in future salary off your books, if the going rate is a first round pick, well, that's not a great sign for the Los Angeles Lakers if they're going to try to use Jared Vanderbilt in a trade. Now, on top of that, when we look at the value of the first round picks here, I mean, that Phoenix pick could be extremely valuable. We don't know what those Magic picks are going to look like, but the Lakers with Luka would also probably project to be a good team moving into the future. So when we look at the Lakers 2031 first round pick, they've got Luka on their roster. You'd have to imagine that that Lakers 2031 first round pick would probably be somewhere similar in value to a Orlando Magic 2030 pick, which the Orlando Magic, again, figure to be a pretty good team at that point. They've got young star level or star adjacent players in Paolo Banchero, Franz Wagner, now Desmond Bane, all on their roster. So you would have to look at this and assume that the Orlando Magic would still be pretty darn good in 2030. So it took 4 picks, including 3 of them that are non-Phoenix Suns picks here, in order to get Desmond Bane. For a Lakers team that has 1 first-round pick that they can move, that's not a great sign. Now, Orlando did not use expiring money. They used Cole Anthony, who does have a team option, so he can be expiring for next year. They also used Kentavious Caldwell-Pope, who has a player option. So that's not pure expiring money there on the books. The Cole Anthony deal is fine, obviously, because he can be expiring. But the Lakers, meanwhile, have pure expiring to offer. You've got Rui Hachimura, you've got Gabe Vincent, you've got Maxi Kleber, you've got potentially Austin Reeves, and we'll talk about that in just a moment. The Lakers have pure expiring salaries that they can send out in any kind of a deal. So that may be in the favor of the Lakers. That may tilt things a little bit, but overall, Desmond Bane costing 4 first-round picks and a pick swap, that's not ideal for a Lakers team that has just 1 first-round pick plus expiring contracts that they can put into a trade. That's not great for the idea that the Lakers can go get the players that they want out there on the trade market. Again, we'll see what Rob Pelinka can do. There will be teams that will heavily value expiring contracts, particularly teams that are looking to make a splash in the summer of 2026. They will value expiring contracts. So I'm not saying that's not an advantage, a significant advantage for the Lakers, that they have pure expiring contracts in order to offer. I think that certainly can help. But the value of the first round picks in this deal, not really what the Lakers would want to see. Now, the big question is, does the NBA look at this deal and say this is reflective of current market value? Or does the NBA look at this deal and say, well, yeah, the Orlando Magic, they overpaid. This is too many first round picks. This is an outlier. This is not truly going to reflect the trade market. That's going to be interesting to see how this all plays out. But for the Lakers, I think they have to look at this and hope that this is not reflective of the current value of future first round picks for teams that project to be solid to very, very good into the future. This could be a bit troubling for the Lakers, the value of the first round picks that we saw from the Orlando Magic. Now, I will say, to me, this all begs the question: if you were the Lakers, what does this mean for Austin Reeves? Like, if Desmond Bane, who Des is a very good player, but I think you can argue which one would you rather have? Would you rather have Des Bane? I'm sure Grizz fans would tell you you'd rather have Desmond Bane. Lakers fans may say otherwise. Look, Austin Reeves is, I think, a better playmaker than Desmond Bane is, better to handle the point guard role. Desmond Bane, you could argue maybe he's the better defensive player. They're more of a pure shooter, but Austin the better playmaker. But they're in similar stratosphere, right? They're in a similar realm, Austin Reeves and Desmond Bane is. So I do wonder, with this value, though, on the plus side for the Lakers, let's say the Lakers do start getting a little bit nervous about Austin Reeves hitting free agency next summer. Now, that's a big difference between Des Bane and Austin Reeves. Desmond Bane is under contract for, I believe it's 4 more years here under contract. So there's cost certainty there with Desmond Bane. But if you are the Lakers, does this cause you? I've been saying for a while now, the Lakers need to be more open-minded to an Austin Reeves trade simply because of the potential for him to move in free agency next summer. He could wind up leaving and going to another team. And so if you're the Lakers, you have to listen to offers on his contract. We talked about this with D'Angelo Russell when he was in a similar position. When you have a player who can become a free agent, you have to listen to offers just because you need to mitigate that risk and see what's out there. I do wonder if this is truly reflective of what the market is for a young Austin Reeves, Desmond Bane, same age, shooting guard / Austin could be a one as well. If this is reflective of the market value, maybe the Lakers should be more open-minded to poking around even more than I'm suggesting, to poking around and seeing what the trade value is for Austin Reeves. Because again, this is a haul, and people will say, oh, well, but the Lakers don't want picks. Memphis now has flexibility. It's not that Memphis is going to use, maybe they will, but it's not that Memphis is definitely going to use every single one of these picks that they got in this deal. What Memphis now has is flexibility. That Suns pick, that's going to have value. That those Orlando picks, those are going to have value. That pick swap, that can have value. So now Memphis can take the pieces that they still have on their roster and they can make a future move. Maybe an expiring KCP next summer gets packaged with one of these picks and becomes something big for the Memphis Grizzlies. So Memphis now has not just draft capital to add young players, which is important in and of itself, but also the ability to pivot and use these picks to go out there and get someone else via trade. And again, this is a haul of draft capital. So when I look at this and I look at the Lakers situation with Austin Reeves, yes, on one hand, the amount of draft capital given up to get Des Bane probably doesn't bode well for the Lakers and their own spending power with just one first-round pick. But it also makes me wonder, should the Lakers really look and see what the value is for Austin Reeves out there, who can be a free agent, who is going to get paid next summer? But if this is the kind of haul that you could get and the kind of future flexibility that could return in value for Austin Reeves, maybe this is something that the Lakers have to really explore. If Desmond Bane is getting you four.
Oh, the Memphis Grizzlies trade kind of came out of left field a little bit. Now, there were some little murmurs going around that they were potentially trading Desmond Bane. There was talks about during the trade deadline and even last offseason, but then nothing happened. So it was kind of like, okay, well, now he got traded. And of course, this is kind of signaled, especially based on the package in which they got in return of like, hey, wait a minute, is Memphis rebuilding? Right? They didn't go and get, trade Desmond Baines for like a Jalen Suggs and a Michael Carter Jr. and, and then, or Wendell Carter Jr., not Michael Carter, Wendell Carter Jr. And, like a Jalen Suggs, and where it's like, okay, now they got these guys that are coming in and giving you the protection and adding depth and doing all this. No, they traded for a package that is essentially a rebuild package. 4 firsts and a pick swap, right? KCP was just basically salary filler. And then they got Cole Anthony, who again is nice. Okay, cool. Gives them some depth, but is kind of like, what are they going to do with him? Are they going to keep him? Are they going to trade him? What's going to end up happening? Right. So with that, again, it signals, what about Ja Morant? What about Triple J, Jaren Jackson Jr.? And reports are already coming out that, hey, teams are monitoring and keeping an eye on that because Memphis, this might have signaled a Memphis rebuild. And I even talked about this might be the precursor that you look back and go, okay, that was the first move in which they just tore this thing down. I think it's very possible that at least one of those two get traded, in Ja Morant and Triple J. I think it's more likely that Triple J gets traded just because, one, is Memphis really going to trade Ja? 2, Triple J no longer qualifies for the Supermax and is going into a contract year. So he could just leave. So I wouldn't be shocked if the Memphis Grizzlies look to trade Jaren Jackson Jr. And he is a guy I have talked very heavily about the Lakers going after. I mean, I talked about this like a month ago now when we got news that Jaren Jackson Jr. no longer qualified for a Supermax. The moment we found that out, I was like, hey, Lakers should go get him and solve all of their problems at the big man position, right? Now, he's probably best suited as a 4, but he won Defensive Player of the Year as a 5, right? And he is exactly what the Lakers need right now as far as the defensive anchor right? And that versatile, skilled big man to slot alongside Luka and LeBron James. And then guess what? When LeBron rides off into the sunset and decides to retire, whenever that is, you can just slide Jaren Jackson to the 4, go get a center to bring in at your 5, and now you got Luka with Jaren Jackson as the pieces going forward. If the Lakers could pull that off, I would do that immediately. And here's the other catch, right? They just traded Desmond Bane for 4 firsts and a pick swap. So let's say they want 6 firsts for Jaren Jackson Jr. plus players, right? Well, guess what? Lakers can now go to Memphis and go, you literally just traded a guy that is incredibly similar, right? For 4 firsts and a pick swap. Guess what Austin Reeves is worth? So we'll give you Austin Reeves. We'll give you, a Dalton Connect and maybe another first. I'd try to keep the first, maybe go pick swaps at that point. Like, hey, here's Austin Reeves, here's Dalton Connect, here's Rui Hachimura, and like 2 pick swaps, right? Because again, you yourself just set the market for a guy like Austin Reeves. You yourself just signaled what an Austin Reeves trade would look like. Or let's say, because again, the Memphis Grizzlies could be rebuilding. They could be a team that's rebuilding. So they might look at it and go, hey, we don't want a 27-year-old Austin Reeves. Well, the Lakers could take Austin Reeves and go get the assets. There's plenty of teams that would like that. So maybe you're working on a 3-team deal where a team is sending you, 3 or 4 firsts, right, to the Lakers, and then you're rerouting that to, the Memphis Grizzlies, and you're doing you're trading Rui Hachimura in that deal or whatever, right? Like that could be something. And you might ask, like, well, why would they want Rui Hachimura? Because he's expiring contract, right? Or maybe you're just matching salaries at that point. Maybe you're doing like a Maxi Kleber or whatever. Because this season, Jaren Jackson Jr. is only making $23 million. So you could, if you wanted to, technically, you could either do Austin Reeves, and then all you need to do is you do Austin Reeves like Maxi Kleber and Shake Milton, right? And be like, hey, we're clearing a bunch of salary off your books so you keep flexibility as a rebuilding team. And then Austin Reeves is worth this amount of assets. Plus we'll give you, Dalton Connect, maybe Dalton Connect instead of Shake Milton. So Dalton Connect, Austin Reeves, right? Maxi Kleber, and then, 2 pick swaps or whatever. Boom, there you go. Right? It would also help tremendously if Jaren Jackson Jr. says, I only want to go to the Lakers, which he absolutely could. If he pulls an Anthony Davis, then I think for sure the Lakers land Triple J. Problem is, if Triple J is like, I'm open to several teams, then that kind of makes things difficult, right? Because you could get teams that are like, yeah, well, you could take Austin Reeves, but we could just give you the picks, right? A team like, OKC or San Antonio. San Antonio could be like, hey, we could give you 2 young guys and give you, a bunch of picks, right? So I think we'd need a little push, a little nudge from Jaren Jackson Jr. if you're the Lakers. But again, he's 26, right? So he's young enough to be that. And then again, if they don't want, right, Austin Reeves, again, you could go turn Austin Reeves into the assets, maybe even get a player in return, right? So like, let's say that they're like, we want, the equivalent of 6 firsts and like a young player. Well, again, you can go trade Austin Reeves. You're going to have to get a player back. So maybe you can get that player back. You can either reroute that player plus the picks to Memphis, or you can keep the player, send the picks plus, again, you'd have to do basically $24 million. You could do Dalton Connect, Gabe Vincent, and Maxi Kleber, right? And you might be thinking, well, that's a lot. You're giving up Gabe Vincent, Maxi Kleber, and then Austin Reeves. You're basically doing a 4-for-1 swap, right? But here's the thing. None of those players are really irrelevant, right? For the Lakers, they're all like, okay, Dalton Connect's like the one guy. Austin Reeves, obviously. You'd still be getting a guy in Triple J, and then you also clear off 3 roster spots, right? That now you can go get other guys because you need to fill out a roster too. That's something you got to keep in mind. So that actually might be better for the Lakers because not only would they have, Jackson Hayes and Alex Lynn coming off the books, right? They could waive Shake Milton and free up 3 spots. Plus, if you do this trade and you end up swapping, 4 players out for 1 or 2, then you free up another 2 or 3 spots. You could have 4 or 5 roster spots that are open. Well, now, also, one, if you're the Lakers, you go to LeBron and be like, look, we just got you Jaren Jackson Jr. and Luka Doncic, right? Dude, take this discount, right? So we can free up the full mid-level exception. We have 4 or 5 open roster spots. We can go get those. Let's go get, at that point, can you get a Bruce Brown or something like that, right? Or a Nikhil Alexander Walker and slot him at the 2, right? So now maybe LeBron's like, you know what, you're right. Like, got Jaren Jackson, Luka, go get a Nikhil Alexander Walker, boom, right? Now you got that, and then, go sign a free agent, go get 2 or 3 free agents. Now maybe you can get a Clint Capella and then, or whatever, Jericho Sims or whatever at that point. Go get a DeAnthony Melton and then go get another piece. And then, your starting 5 literally could be Luka, right? Nikhil Alexander Walker. Probably have to go Dorian Finney-Smith at that point, which is fine. LeBron James and Jaren Jackson Jr. Sounds like a contending team to me. You got floor spacing, you got shooting, you got defense, you got switchability, right? You got literally 4 guys that can defend alongside Luka. You got your defensive anchor in Jaren Jackson Jr. You got probably the closest thing to Anthony Davis that you could possibly get, right? As far as defense and offensive production and versatility, right? He also wouldn't have to be your best player, right? Like he is on Memphis. This past season, he was their best player, right? Like even over Ja at times, right? So again, it's like now you don't have to be the best guy. And then when LeBron rides off into the sunset, again, you just slide over to the 4. Also, neither him nor Luka would be on supermaxes. So the Lakers would maintain even more flexibility going forward, right? Because that's the thing. Like if Luka qualified for supermax and Jaren Jackson Jr. qualified for supermax, it's tough. Right now you got 2 guys making like 60 plus million a year. Right. And it's like, man, you're very limited on what you can do with the rest of your roster. However, when both are only making, 20, 30 million less on their contract because, again, they don't qualify for those, that gives you a lot more flexibility. And then LeBron departs and, now you clear, his 50 million or whatever. And then, and honestly, I'd rather give Jaren Jackson Jr. 35 million a year than Austin Reeves 35 million a year. 35 to 40 million a year because that's probably what Austin Reeves is going to get. I personally prefer to give that to Jaren Jackson Jr. You have Jaren Jackson Jr. and Austin Reeves as your foundation going forward. You have your kind of big little, even though both guys, are bigger, like Luka is bigger, right? You have kind of that big man, the wing and interior guy going forward. And then again, you can go get that center to slot alongside Jaren Jackson Jr. Maybe it's a guy that you go and pick with the 55th pick, right? Maybe you're going and getting a Muhammad Faye and developing him for the next 2 years while LeBron is kind of doing his thing and being a part of the team. And then when he departs, boom, maybe now Jaren Jackson Jr. is moving over to the 4 and then, Muhammad's coming in and being your starting center. Or maybe the Lakers can get that later on down the road, whatever. Especially if the Lakers could keep the 2031 first in that trade, if possible. I don't know if it would be possible, but if you could, right, whether you're turning off Reeves and getting assets, then that could potentially open the door to like you maybe go getting another center and then maybe just play LeBron at the 3. I don't know how LeBron would feel about that, but maybe you're kind of doing something like that. Or, again, maybe you're going and getting an upgrade at the 3. Right? Maybe you're taking, that first plus the other pick swaps you have and going and getting a guy at the 3. I don't know. It's something to keep an eye on. I think the Lakers should go at least pick up the phone and ask about Jaren Jackson Jr. Bare minimum. You at least ask. And, if I'm LeBron, I'm calling Triple J and being like,
There have been no indications that the Los Angeles Lakers will get their hands on Kevin Durant this offseason. However, that doesn't mean they won't be involved in a deal. The Lakers don't need Durant, but they need reinforcements for next season. A Durant trade could get that for them in a multi-team deal. The latest intel from NBA insider Jake Fisher revealed who the top 2 teams are that are currently vying for Durant, writing, "Things are obviously fluid at this stage, but the 2 teams most frequently cited as potential landing spots for Durant entering Saturday's business, league sources say, were Minnesota and Miami. If the Heat pull the trigger on Durant, and the Suns' main priority in a deal is to save money, Phoenix could reroute what the Heat send them for salary matching purposes. That's where the Lakers could pounce. Andrew Wiggins is among the most likely candidates the Heat would send out to get Durant. As it turns out, Wiggins was named a potential trade candidate for the Lakers. On Saturday, Jovan Buha of The Athletic said Wiggins is a player the Lakers could realistically acquire. Looking at the current market, Nicholas Claxton and Wiggins are probably the best realistic players the Lakers could get for each of their two big holes, Buha said. Buha added, if you can get Claxton as your starting center and Wiggins as your starting three, and you still have LeBron, Austin, and Luka, I really like that starting five together. Not long after this report, ESPN's Shams Charania revealed Durant would sign a long term agreement with Miami, the San Antonio Spurs, or Houston Rockets if he landed with one of those three teams. This further intensified the buzz around Durant and the Heat, which could also impact Wiggins' future. And you, fan, what do you think about Andrew Wiggins' situation? Leave your opinion in the comments.